It was close to 2 in the morning when I finally got back on the interstate. I had been driving for almost 9 hours, cutting across 3 states in one night, trying to reach home in time for a morning meeting I already knew I was going to dread. I hadn't planned this drive. I had been stuck in a hospital waiting room for most of the day after visiting a relative, and by the time I left the city, the sky was already pitch black. I told myself I'd make the full trip anyway. I'd done long drives before, but something about this night felt heavier, like the darkness on the highway carried its own weight. The interstate at that hour always looked deserted, an endless river of cold pavement that seemed to stretch past the reach of headlights. The only company I ever got at that time were semi-trucks driving miles apart, their taillights glowing faintly like dying stars. Everything else was empty. No rest stops for long stretches, no lights other than the occasional reflective highway signs blinking by, nothing to indicate that the world still had people in it. I had been fighting off fatigue since midnight. Coffee hadn't helped, music had turned into background noise, and the monotony of the road had settled into my bones. The constant whisper of tires against asphalt only made the sleepiness settle deeper into my mind. I rolled down my window for cold air, slapped my own face a few times, and pushed myself to stay alert. The last thing I needed was to drift. The night was unusually quiet, almost unnaturally so. Even the wind felt muted. There was a strange stillness that made every little noise inside the car feel too loud, like the creaking of the dashboard, the soft rattle of coins in the cup holder, the faint hum of the engine. Everything felt pronounced, as if the empty highway was amplifying the smallest sounds in the absence of anything else. That's why it startled me so much when I saw it. A pair of taillights up ahead, stationary, dim, just sitting there on the shoulder as if abandoned. Cars breaking down at night wasn't rare, but something about the shape of the vehicle looked wrong. It was slightly crooked, like it had stopped mid-swerve, and even from a distance I could see something flickering, a faint, pulsing red light low to the ground, one of those battery-powered emergency SOS beacons, the same kind people used when desperate. My first instinct was to keep driving. It wasn't smart to stop for strangers on the side of a highway at 2 a.m. Everyone knew that. Every video online warned about it, every story emphasized how dangerous it was. But as I got closer, I saw a figure waving both arms wildly, stepping closer to the road as if trying to flag me down. And for a moment, I felt something I didn't expect to feel. Guilt. Because what if they were genuinely stranded? What if they had been waiting for hours and I was the only car to pass? I imagined my own family stuck like that, praying for someone to slow down. It was enough to make me ease off the gas, even if some instinct deep in my chest screamed that something was off. I pulled onto the shoulder, leaving a safe distance between my car and his. My hazards blinked in the dark, making the figure ahead appear in staggered flashes of amber light. As he approached, I noticed his clothes first. Heavy jacket, jeans, worn boots, nothing unusual. His stride, however, felt strange, too purposeful, too steady for someone claiming distress. And though he waved to me, he never actually looked frightened. Still, I got out, keeping the door half open behind me just in case. The cold air slapped me awake, and I took a few slow steps forward, feeling that uncomfortable prickle on my skin that always meant something wasn't right. The man thanked me with a forced kind of energy. He said he needed help. Car battery died, phone dead too, classic story. He gestured toward his car, and I saw the driver's side door was wide open. The interior was too dark to make out much, but something about the open door felt deliberate, almost staged. I should have trusted my instincts then, should have gotten back inside my car and driven away. But exhaustion makes people slow, dulls the things that usually keep us alive. I handed him my phone, keeping a cautious distance. He unlocked it with surprising ease, and that alone should have made me feel uneasy. Instead, I tried to be rational. People could panic, people could be careless, people could forget their manners when desperate. He walked toward the rear of his car, pretending to make a call. The fog that had been creeping in began to thicken, blurring the lines of headlights and swallowing most of the surrounding features. Within seconds, he looked like a silhouette disappearing into gray. That's when I noticed something inside his vehicle. Movement. A shifting shadow in the back seat, small and subtle, but unmistakable. Someone crouched down. My heartbeat spiked, slamming into my ribs. Every horror story I'd ever heard rushed into my mind in an instant. Every warning, every instinct screaming louder and louder. I stepped backwards slowly, ready to run to my car, but before I could move another inch, something slammed against my shoulder. An arm wrapped around my neck from behind, squeezing tight, cutting off air as I staggered forward. It was too fast, too unexpected for me to react. The grip tightened, and I felt the pressure building in my throat, my chest burning as panic rushed through me. There had been someone hiding behind my car. I struggled, clawing at their forearms, trying to twist free, my lungs screaming for air. The fog made the world around me blur and stretch, and I felt my knees buckle under the strain. Then, another voice, shouting from the direction where the man with my phone had walked. He charged toward us, angry, yelling, running full speed. They had planned this. I managed to twist just enough to loosen the grip for a second, just enough to gasp in a painful breath before swinging my elbow back desperately. It connected with something solid, a stomach or ribs, and the person behind me stumbled. I didn't wait to see who it was. I sprinted for my car, adrenaline pumping so violently my vision blurred. My hands fumbled for the door, yanking it open just as the man with my phone lunged toward me. My car engine was still running, the smartest decision I made that night. I jumped inside and slammed the door shut, locking it as hard as my shaking fingers allowed. The man threw himself at the window, hitting the glass with his palm, shouting something muffled through the fog. The other figure came running from behind, and I saw, barely, a glint of metal in his hand. I floored it. Gravel spat behind me. My tires screeched. They tried to chase me, running in the headlights like wild animals, but I was already pulling onto the highway again. My hands trembled violently on the wheel, my breath short and stuttering. I couldn't look back. I couldn't risk slowing down. Every part of me felt like it was vibrating with raw terror. I didn't realize I had tears in my eyes until I blinked and the headlights smeared. The road ahead looked endless, a tunnel of fog and fear. I drove faster than I ever should have, desperate to put distance between myself and whatever trap I had escaped. Then, I realized something that made my blood go cold. He still had my unlocked phone. All my information, my address, my accounts, everything. I couldn't stop, couldn't pull over. Not until I was somewhere with people, somewhere safe. The next exit was miles away, but I kept my foot pressed to the accelerator. The fog felt thicker now, pressing against the windshield, swallowing the world outside my headlights. Every shadow felt like it could be them. Every passing sign felt wrong, tilted in strange angles. By the time I reached the next gas station, it felt like hours had passed. I pulled into the brightly lit lot, shaking uncontrollably. I didn't get out, not at first. I just sat there, staring at the entrance, waiting for someone to appear behind me again. When I finally went inside, the attendant noticed my panic immediately and helped me call the police. I told them everything. The fake breakdown, the trap, the man hiding behind my car, the one hiding in the back seat of theirs, the phone still in their hands. They told me to stay put until officers arrived. They asked for descriptions, but the fog and adrenaline made everything a blur. All I remembered clearly were the hands around my throat and the way the first man had smiled too calmly. When the police finally searched the area, the car was long gone. The SOS beacon still blinked faintly in the distance. My phone had already been turned off, impossible to track. I went home shaken, looking over my shoulder for weeks. Every time a car followed me too closely, my grip tightened on the wheel. Every time I saw someone pulled over on a highway, I felt my stomach twist into knots. 2 days later, I woke up to find a package on my doorstep with no return label. Inside was my phone. Destroyed. Screen smashed, battery removed, casing cracked, and taped to the back was a scrap of paper with a handwritten message. Next time, don't stop. I never did again. And I never will. Because the highway is different at night. It hides things you don't see until too late. Things that wait for the right moment. The right car. The right person willing to slow down out of guilt or kindness. And some people aren't looking for help. They're looking for victims.